One. All right, we are live. Jake, what's good?
Not much, brother. It's real dark here, and it's not near you. It's
I
been
know, it's so weird.
yeah. I was actually thinking that's gonna be the strangest thing. Like the darkness just like ends my day. Like right now, I'm like, all right, it's over, and you still got like a lot of sunlight and shit, and I'm jealous. I knew this was gonna happen, and it's hit me right in the face.
Inevitable. Well, it's funny because we don't have to change our clocks ever, which is
Really?
interesting. Yeah, so we'll never have to go forward or back. So that will never mess me up too. So yeah, real quick, Jake, I want to talk for 1 sec. What's the final for
Oh,
med
all
school?
right. Yes. So the update, it's not final, but it's like 90% final, Lake Erie,
Lake Erie, congratulations.
Pennsylvania. The reason it's not final is I thought I'd get a couple more interviews like right now, and I didn't. And it's still possible to get some, but like I'm pretty pragmatic. Like even if I were to get one, I would need to like wipe the floor away with the interview. And I'll still play it out, but like in my head, I'm gonna go there. And the school I'm waiting on, New England, just delayed their admissions decision, so they didn't really give me a choice. I had to put a deposit down. So because the money's in and I'm officially broke, it'll be Lake Erie for now, but it could change. We'll see. I'll keep updating.
Yeah, keep us updated. I'm sure next week we'll have a definite answer. I'm sure, something like that.
I think next week it'll be for sure. I mean, man, these guys are so busy. It's like they said a 4 to 5 week turnaround. That's ridiculous. There's like thousands of applicants.
Yeah, yeah.
But
All
yeah.
right. Well,
Dan, wait, quickly for you, and we can talk about it at the end. I love the Facebook community a lot. It is good. And we'll talk.
yeah, we'll definitely talk about the community after for sure. Thanks for bringing that up, though. Definitely fired up for today. Very excited. Have a really cool guest on from Merrimack. So after the podcast with Stevie Dowling a couple of weeks ago, I had reached out to him for saying thank you for having put the time away for us, and to see if he knew anyone that would be, one, willing to come on, and two, would be just a quality guest, right? So we have a special guest. Spoke to him before the podcast. I could feel the energy through the phone call when we were speaking. We were laughing, smiling. So very excited. We got Rob Hulse on here. And we'll just talk to Rob. I know he's in strength and conditioning, Merrimack College, so a couple of connects there I'm sure we have. But very excited. And yeah, so Rob, if you just kind of want to introduce yourself, say what you're doing right now, and then we'll just get into it.
First of all, fellas, thank you so much for having me on. It's an awesome opportunity. This is something like, just in a podcast in general, is like something I've always wanted to do. And like, obviously, I'm a big podcast guy. Like, I'm on my Joe Rogan right now, so let's get after it. But no, in all seriousness, my name is Rob Hulse. I'm originally from Middletown, New Jersey. I went to, like you were saying, Merrimack College. I played football there all 4 years, and then I ended up getting my master's there this past spring. Just finished it up. I'm currently working as a fitness and strength and conditioning coach over at Drive Custom Fit, located in Salem, New Hampshire. If I can describe one word about Drive, or just like multiple words, I call it like the jack of all trades when it comes to fitness. Like we got a little bit of everything here in regards to a classroom setting. So we're generally work with general population, and we have over 6 different classrooms designed, whether it be for HIIT training or just full resistance. We have a yoga studio. We offer one-on-one and group training, also in sports performance as well. So it's been an awesome opportunity here. I started off as an intern my senior year of college, and I pretty much never looked back, because the thing about Drive is like, most facilities, especially most internships, they kind of focus on one thing, whether it be just sports performance or whether it be just nutrition, whatever. Drive has literally everything you can imagine all in one facility. So it wasn't really like I had to necessarily branch off and kind of go anywhere else, because everything I kind of needed was right here. And it was just a good stepping stone to start off. And it's been an awesome 2 years so far. And yeah, I'm super excited for the opportunity to be on the podcast with you guys and looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, dude, the podcast format is amazing. I actually remember the first one Dan and I did. It's great. Like, you're just chatting. It gets and it can just go in 1,000 directions. I guess the question I'll start with, it sounds like you have a ton going on right now and we want to hit on drive. Let's start at the beginning with Merrimack, though. You said you played football. Was strength and conditioning always on your mind?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll branch off to even when I was younger. Like, I mean, I played sports my whole life. My parents never wanted us to ever stay inside, so we were always outside. They pretty much anything on a board, they pretty much threw us on. So like, I'm from the Jersey Shore, where I live 10 minutes from the beach. So ever since I was 5, 6 years old, it was surfing, snowboarding, skateboarding. I played football my whole life. Anything with a ball, anything with a board, I was able to do. And I was always like that. I never wanted to subject myself to kind of one sport or kind of one thing. I try to do a little bit of everything and kind of get good at each and every little thing, and kind of go through phases like that. But for some reason, football was just the one that always stuck. And I don't know what it had to do with just hitting people or whatever the case may be, or just the team environment. But that's what always got me fired up. If I had to think of one sport at the end of the day that truly impacted my life, it was that, all ever since I was 6 years old. And I went to school at Middletown South. It's one of the top public schools, especially for football at the time. When I went there, we won the state title my senior year. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. So I played football, I wrestled, and I ran track. So it was just a nonstop in season. There was no off season, never. And I had an amazing opportunity coming out of my senior year. I was looking to obviously play at the highest level I could, but also I knew that I never wanted to have a desk job, never wanted to work a 9 to 5. I wanted kind of full control of my schedule and to always do something with sports and athletes and whatnot. And so I kind of made a decision when I was like 16, like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And like, I remember I stepped into the gym for the first time, like the high school weight room when I was like 14. I was like, just the energy and the music and the guys just like getting after it. I was like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. This is where I belong. This is what I want to do. And especially like going into college, like going through that whole strength and conditioning, program and the whole process of it, it really tests guys. Some guys can do it and some guys can't. And some guys like really fall in love with the process of like getting better. And that's what it was for me. Like, I wasn't the most skilled guy in the field, but I knew I brought the most effort in regards to anything I did, whether it was academics, whether it was the weight room, whether it was practice. Like, I knew that giving my best effort was going to ultimately kind of set me up for success and kind of build the relationships around me. So ultimately that's where it kind of started. And even going through that training and conditioning program, that's what kind of finalized it all for me. Like, I was like, yep, I want to train athletes. I want to train, people in the general population that want to get healthier, want to be better versions of themselves. Because I'm still trying to do that. I'm still trying to be the best version of myself. I still take my own training pretty seriously. And I don't think that niche ever went away once football ended. It was almost like, all right, what's next now? Like, football's done. Let's find something else to do. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. Just kind of figure out what my training, style is. It's a little all over the place, but I think that's the best part about training, is that it comes down to balance. I have a lot of respect for guys that kind of subject themselves to one thing, whether it's powerlifting, whether it's, endurance training, whatever the case may be. I try to do a little bit of everything. And that's what I try to bring my clients to. I think the biggest thing I've learned, especially working in like a private setting compared to like the strength and conditioning setting, is like, obviously it's super duper serious and way more controlled in like a college or like a professional environment. But when you have people that just kind of, go about their day-to-day business and they just want to, get healthier, lose some weight and stuff like that and just get stronger, then it's kind of like, all right, we got to kind of figure out the piece of the puzzle here. How do we kind of work with this person and figure out what their goals are and like how can we make them the best versions of themselves?
Very cool. And I like to know this as well too, Rob, to even go back further. So you were always outside and everything, and obviously you're kind of a product of your environment. Were your parents very active and saying, hey, like we always want you to play sports and all that?
So my parents honestly let me make that decision on my own. Like
Okay.
my parents, weren't generally like super into going in the gym and whatnot. And not everybody's like that. I totally understand that too. And they never really forced it on me and my siblings either. Like the biggest thing they wanted for us was for us to be happy, number one. Number two, they wanted us to just get involved in as many different things as we could. So they threw us, in as many different sports teams and just clubs and stuff like that growing up, just to kind of see what our interests really lied. And I think like once I started football when I was 6, my parents knew like, yeah, this kid's gonna be a football. Like my dad was like, yeah, this kid's gonna be a football player. And that's where it all started. Like I give super credit to them because they always held me accountable. Like once I made a decision, like, yeah, sports is like what I want to do, like training is what I want to do. They're like, okay, this is what you want to do. You got to do X, Y, and Z in order to get there. You gotta, like, if anything I learned from my parents, it's work ethic. My parents are the hardest workers that I know. My dad, he's worked for UPS for over 20 years. My mom has worked multiple jobs my whole life. And if that's the biggest thing I've learned from them is that nothing is ever handed to you. You got to go get it. Like you got to go chase after what you want. And that's ultimately where I pay my respect for them and the amount of love and support they've given to me over the years, like especially on the football field. Like I can hear my mom with 15,000 fans in the stadium. Like I can point her out from a mile away. And they didn't miss one Merrimack game. They were at every single tailgate. They were at every single after like the games and whatnot. They were there, like traveling all over the place on top of their busy schedules. And I couldn't ask for more. Like it was everything I could imagine and more, especially like, going into college and whatnot.
Hell yeah. And, a reoccurring theme that we hear a lot is on the podcast, your conversation, and not only talking between Jake and I, but just some of the guests is having that support system. And I think just, as, a young individual, an adult, having that support system there for you. You talked about your mom at the football games, and parents never missing a game is huge. And I think because you appreciate that, I'm sure it kind of happened in the weight room and being a part of that team. And so now as a coach, you're not the player anymore. You're the person who everyone looks up to you as their support. So I think having that background of all that support from when you're young with the coaches, the football coaches, the team, I think plays an integral part within the influence that you can now provide your clients on the product.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think every single trainer I've had, whether it was in high school or college, and all the coaches I've had growing up, they were ultimately the biggest part of my success and like having them as role models. I remember like when I was 6 years old, I knew I wanted to play for Middletown South. I knew I wanted to play for my coach, Coach Antonucci. He was like a Middletown legend. He's won over 10 state titles.
Wow.
And I just, absolute legend. Like it was just something I always dreamed of as a kid. Like, we would go to like all the high school football camps, like, and like Pop Warner and stuff. And all the older guys would be leading all the drills and whatnot. Like, yeah, I'm going to be that guy when I'm in high school. And then like, when I started doing like college tours and whatnot, and seeing all the guys on the field, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be that dude on the field. And then by the time like I was done playing, I was like, yeah, I want to be a coach. Like, this is where I belong. This is like what I was like, I generally felt like I was made to do. And I mean, obviously it took a little while to adjust going from like player to coach. It's like a big jump, but ultimately I think for me, like I knew the impact that like all my coaches had on me. And like, I always wanted to kind of play dividends of what they did and also put my own spin on it too. Like I'm a real, like when it comes to relationship building, that's like a huge part of my coaching philosophy. Like if that trust and that relationship isn't there between you, your athletes, or the individuals that you work with, then there's no progression that's going to happen. There's no general feeling you're going to get waking up in the morning that you're going to go train that person at 5 a.m. Like, and it doesn't matter who you work with, you gotta be on top of it. You gotta be, you gotta be dialed in at all costs. And I think that's, especially with drive, like that's one of the biggest things that I've learned too, is like, you either want it or you don't. And then you either have it or you don't too. And some people, they're really good coaches. And then there's some like coaches that are really good leaders. And I think there's like a big difference with that too. Like you can coach through a program, you're super found with it, but can you lead by example? Can you have the tough conversations with your athletes that aren't even related to sports or anything like that? And I think just having a general real connection with people goes a super long way. And it's gone a long way for me and everything I've done. And, I'm just going to try my best to continue to do that moving forward.
Fired up.
Rob, this is I'm happy that you mentioned two things. You mentioned tough conversations, and you also mentioned like creating said relationship with the client. I'm going to ask this question. It might be framed in a weird way, but it's going somewhere. I've just got to get my thought across. You seem like you've got a very electric personality in the sense of like, it's fucking game on. You go in there, you're going to absolutely crush it. And me and Dan, same way. I go in, I want to train, balls to the wall, doesn't even matter. Where I know I would fail as a practicing trainer, I have a very, very difficult time dialing it down and saying this person isn't in love with like training. So how do you develop that relationship with an athlete that doesn't have that same fire? And what's kind of the tactic to build that trust? Maybe have a hard, it's time to put the pedal to the metal. How does that conversation go, or that process?
I think, I mean, that's a really good question. I think one of the things that I've learned, especially working with like a lot more general population clients as well, you got to be real with people. You can't there can't be coach you, and then there can't be like you. Like, I feel like my inner coach comes out from just my own personality. Like you were saying, I'm lights on the moment I will open my eyes. Like it's 0 to 100 or nothing, or nothing at all. So and that's how I've always been. Like, I mean, I've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning. I've had over 5 clients today, a couple classes. I taught spin, but my last client was literally a half hour ago, and I'm still the same way. The switch never turns off until, you walk out of the facility. And I think just me being myself and trying to get someone to smile, get someone to laugh, tell a joke, whatever I got to do, just kind of break the ice at first. Cause obviously, I've worked with kids all the way from 10 years old, all the way to, individuals who, are businessmen and travel 30 weeks out of the year. So again, you just got to be real with them. You got to, kind of, again, just be as upfront as you are about, what they're going through, and kind of give a better understanding of what they're necessarily looking for. And then also based on what they're looking for, kind of give your own insight of hey, we can do this, but I also think this would be good for us too. And then once they hear your side of what you feel like they generally need, that's when 2 and 2 come together, and that's when the spark kind of happens. So yeah, it takes a little while for, someone to get comfortable training at first with someone new. But I've always been the type of person to, be super easy and kind of outgoing in those uncomfortable situations. I'm a little weird, if you can already tell by now. So again, I don't have no shame and no problem with being able to initially break a conversation with somebody, or, someone's having a rough day, just try to turn it around in any way that I can. Because again, I'm a real person too. I have my ups and my downs, and I know the individuals around me have done that for me too. And that's all I could want, is to, one, just make someone's day, and 2, impact their life in any way that I can. And I think if you don't want that as a trainer, then kind of why are you in the field in the first place?
Jake, are you good on that?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, man, just hearing you, I would run through a fucking wall, hearing you go off. Every morning I need something to fire me up for the gym. Tomorrow I'm gonna be like, Rob.
No, it's so funny because Jake will send me a Snapchat every morning of him either lifting or a screenshot of the song of the day, and then you'll say some crazy shit.
Let's go.
And it's great because I'm West Coast now, so when it's 6 here, it's 9 a.m. there. Like you've already done your stuff and everything. But yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, believe me, I know my older siblings live out in Phoenix. So I already know the whole time zone and trying to reach out to them. And I'm like, it's like 10 o'clock here, but like I'm ready to go to bed. And by the time like I'm ready to crash, and my brothers are just getting home from work, and I'm like, oh, all right, I guess I'll try and catch up with you tomorrow, man. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, man. No, I get it. Something when you were talking earlier about just kind of like breaking the ice with clients or so and so, or even teams, something that I even ran into a lot, especially when I was at Merrimack and then coaching at BC, was, and you can relate, when these athletes or these individuals come in to see you, this is the first time that they see you today, but it's probably the fifth or sixth person or group that you've seen. And so did you find it when you were beginning to start your coaching career to sustain like a high level of energy, client after client or team after team? Because for me personally, I found that tough to do in the first couple of months. It's like, oh, we're like 8 teams in. It's like 3 o'clock. This is the first time they see me. They're running in. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So obviously the beauty about Drive is like you have the ability to kind of control your schedule. And like I knew that when I first came on, like I wanted to immediately make an impact in any way that I can. So I was like working, Saturday and Sunday. I was shadowing classes. I was coming into the gym at 4, not leaving till late. I mean, I'm still doing that, but I think one of the biggest things I had to learn right off the bat was how to balance, the workload with like my own also wants and needs. So like, huge shout out to my, one of my bosses, Tony Hadger, who really helped me work on my schedule and trying to figure out like what I'm able to handle. Because again, like, especially at first, like I would go through 12, 14-hour days and trying to maintain that high level of energy. Yeah, at first it was kind of tough because I didn't have a set workout schedule. I was kind of doing everything all over the place. And when you're unorganized in that sense of like time management, it's super tough. And I think, like I said, those first few months that I was like interning and trying to just like put my foot in the door, I just wanted people to see my face and I wanted people to like know what I was about. But then like once I started adding on more and more clients, and especially over the years, like where I'm at now, I really had to like sit myself down and be like, all right, dude, you need to set it the same exact time every day. It's like, so I block out 1 to 3 every day, non-negotiable, like for me to work out. Like that's like my time. Like working out for me, and I can dive this into a little bit more, is more mental for me than physical. Especially like the whole idea of like balancing training and whatnot. Like I want to make sure that, especially going into like my second half of the day, that like I'm feeling good in like whatever like stress or anxiety, whatever the case may be that I'm kind of going through from the morning sessions, I'm able to kind of alleviate that through my training. And then like once I'm feeling good and like I'm fed and whatnot, then I can kind of go and crush the second half of my day. And I think also too, just like being able to balance like what days I'm sleeping in and then what days I'm getting up super early. And like now I'm at a point where like my schedule is kind of like how I want it to be. Like 2 to 3 days out of the week, I'm waking up at 4, but also 2 to 3 days out of the week, I'm waking up at like 8 or 9. So it's a really good balance, but like some days I'm leaving earlier, some days I'm leaving later. And I think like having that balance, especially when you have like an overload of classes and clients and stuff like that to handle, again, was super important for me to establish. And now that I'm in that spot, the quality of my training with my clients and like the conversation that I'm having, like are just so much better. Like I feel so much better waking up and knowing that like, yeah, like today's gonna be a good day. Like, it's not like like we got a long day ahead. You know what I mean? Like, let's buckle up for this one. But it was like that at first because of like, you're not used to it. It's so much, but now it's like finding balance was super important. And I'm super appreciative of that now. And like the fact that Drive lets you have that opportunity to kind of do that.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on that real quick. Is you said that's kind of like your time, that 1 to 3 window. I mean, you don't have to be a strength coach to know that this kind of applies to anyone. And something we like to do is, like, for the listeners, although you're a strength coach, anything that you're doing, I hope applies to some other people, right? And I think it's so important to set some time away for yourself. I still kind of struggle with it a little too, is being
Mhm.
able to step away from my work on a daily basis for an hour or two or whatever I'm doing. Because, if you don't do that, that anxiety builds up, and anxiety could be a strong word. I would just say more stress and not
Yeah.
alleviating that. And after working out or going for the walk or just legit just stepping away and doing something else totally non-related, I think is really important just for anyone to do, and it keeps you fresh. So yeah, no, I think that's just an important point that I want to emphasize just to anyone listening, is being able to do that. And yeah, so that's something I just want to touch upon.
Yeah, and it's obviously hard in our profession too, when like,
Right.
I mean, we're in the service industry. So like no matter what, I try to answer my phone within like the first 5 minutes, especially if it's a client and it's like something important. Like it's super tough for me to be like, like, and like put my phone aside and just like put it on do not disturb and like crank tunes and like just get after it, even if it's for 45 minutes to an hour. And like I said, my training split is like, I wouldn't say it's a little all over the place, but like I do yoga, like I teach spin 3 to 4 times a week. I still try and keep up with like my strength training as well. So again, like just finding any sort of time throughout the day just to kind of let the mind go elsewhere and just kind
Yep.
of you focus on you, because you're so focused on kind of everybody else's success and like their goals and like what they're doing, that like you kind of lose sight of like what your own specific goals still are. And like I lost sight of that for a little bit, like especially in my training. I was like, nah, man, like this is what you do. This is what you do for a living. Like this is should be your MO. Like you should put just as much time and energy into that own training as you are for everybody else kind of that you're working with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that you hit it on the head. I mean, when you said we're in the service industry, it's right. Like, I'll use this example from a medical standpoint. You can only give the most of your abilities to your patients if you're as confident about yourself as possible. Like, if you're not working on you, you're gonna get fucking slammed and you're gonna burn out. And like, these are really real things. And I think in any industry, just like, it's not as simple as just saying, oh, have self-love, like love yourself and be good. It's like, no, really work on your fucking self, figure out what's going to like allow you to grow. And I think having this like me time, like we had made a joke on a previous podcast, but like, where's the Jake time, or like have a Dan, but that's really important. It's like, you need to like step away, and there's got to be times that are blocked in, right? Like in your time management, that's for you. It's such a good point, and we could have the whole podcast on that. I do want to switch gears just because I would be a fool not to ask. Can you talk about Drive? What makes it a little bit different? Because I just want to hear from your perspective. Like, why do you love Drive? I can see how excited.
Oh my God. I mean, I could probably go on for an hour about it, but no, in all seriousness, I remember when I walked in the Drive for the first time at the old spot, and like with all like the classrooms going on, you got the EDM music bumping in the background, like people are just getting after it. Like the trainers are just on the mic, just making sure everybody's on track, and just seeing like the setting, like I knew that's where I wanted to be. And especially now moving over to the brand new spot, it's just unlike any other spot you're going to ever go to, because we offer so many different things. So like I was touching on earlier, we have 6 different classrooms in the actual facility of itself. One is focused on primary strength training. So it's just a room. And because of COVID and everything like that, like we had to really redesign our programs and whatnot, because we used to be a rotational style. Meaning like we used to do class setups, whether it was on the turf or like around the facility, at the old gym. And then once COVID happened, you obviously had to space everybody out and separate it. And so we redesigned all the rooms here at Drive to still fit those COVID standards, but make sure everybody is able to come in every day and still get their workout in. So we have one room that's all strength training. We have a heated room, which cranks up to 95 degrees. It's like what's HIIT style. Our, like we call it our phase room. That's our spin class. That cranks to 95 too. So if you guys are feeling dangerous one day, get in that thing because I really light it up. And then we have one room that's actually a rotational class with 4 different functional machines. So you have like your skill mill, your rower, your skier, and your air bike all in that one room, and you're rotating throughout the class. And then we have one spot on the turf. There's over 34 members that take class at a time on that turf. They have their own Kaiser bike. They have 4 sets of dumbbells. Like the layout is just, when people walk in the gym for the first time, it's kind of like, it's a lot to take in at first because there's a lot of bright lights. There's like the music's super loud and like, it's just cool. And I think that's the best part is like every single trainer on staff is super well educated and super different in their own way. And that's what I love about it too. We're not all just like a product of the system. We have our own style. We have trainers who are bodybuilders. We have trainers who are power lifters. We have trainers who, are generally just functional fitness. Like I can go on about, a bunch of, and that the best part about it too is like me and our coworkers, we're super close. Like we're friends. We hang out on the weekends. Like we go out, like, and that's the beauty of it too. Like having a tight knit community like that. And I say the word community, and I really emphasize that because that's what Drive is. Drive is a community of individuals who are looking just to come in and just better themselves. Like my whole training MO and like the whole vision of Drive is like, we want you better walking out the door than when you walked in. And we're really like changing the mold of how people think about fitness and health. And that's why we try to offer as many services as we can, because you won't have to go anywhere else. It's all in one spot. And that's the best part about it is like, I'm able to work with so much different clientele each and every day and do so many different things that, going back to that energy point, like the switch is always on because it's always something different. It's always something new I'm trying to maneuver and figure out. And like, I say like jack of all trades in the beginning of the podcast, like that's literally what it is. Like, whether it's nutrition, mobility, just we do boot camps, stuff like that, just for weight loss. And whatever we're trying to do just to help any individual that walks in who has never been in a facility like this is like what we're trying to do.
Rob, so do you have people who come in who have no experience in the gym?
That's the point. The point of Drive is like, we want an individual who is like, even if you've never stepped a foot in a gym a day in your life, that's what Drive is generally suited for. Like the general population who like really just like wants some answers and like has a lot of questions and stuff like that. And like, that's the beauty of the class setting, is because you're learning about exercises each and every day because the trainer is literally instructing it right in front of you and coaching you alongside it. And even though it's super high energy and it's fast paced and whatnot, our whole goal is to make sure nobody's lost. So I'll always know, like we look at our roster on our check-in list on our phones, I'll always know who's like a new member coming in because they start off. And like, that's the best part. Like, so I'll go up to the new member, like I'll introduce myself and like kind of run them through the program separately. So that way before class starts and I just start going into my spiel, because I kind of black out for a good hour and just like, I'm so in the zone that I kind of like, I'm not going to say I lose sight of like, because when you have 33 people at once and it's just one you got to like really be dialed in. And so like, I always try my best, especially if someone's new coming in, to make sure they're as comfortable as possible, because it could be a little intimidating at first. I mean, you got people coming in at 4:30, 5 a.m. just crushing like HIIT circuits or just like pounding weights, and like you've never really seen that anywhere else. So I think that's the coolest part about it, is like you never know what you're going to expect in a given day, and it kind of just keeps me on my toes.
What's your training like? I know you had said you're split sort of all over the place, but I'm trying to gauge like what do you do? I know it seems like you're a jack of all trades.
No, like obviously I still stay within the same principles of like general strength and conditioning. So like I really make sure like I stick to like my main compounds that I know and love: bench, squat, like I'm a big, like also like I love Olympic barbell lifting. So I love snatches, I love cleans, clean jerks, all that stuff. So I kind of set aside, I try to like structure it by the day. So like I know that on like certain days, like Thursday, Friday, and Tuesday, I teach spin. So I try to program it out to whether I'm doing like upper strength days on those days, or I'm just doing some active recovery. And then the days that I'm not doing that, like I'm doing like my lower body strength training. But then like 2 days a week, also I'm doing yoga. So I get like that. And that's just something I just started with. Like I just bought a Lululemon mat. Like that's only been something pretty recent. But like just the benefits I've been able to get with it in my training is just, it's just another tool. I always like say it's like adding another tool to the toolbox. And like Dan, you could probably attest, like Coach Kamal, who is also one of my who is our grad instructor for strength and conditioning this past fall. You know, that's what it, like he really brought us that insight, was like adding tools to the toolbox and sharpening out the ones that you already have. So that's what I try to do. I try to refine the skills that I still want to continue to progress in, like my bench and my squat and my clean and deadlifts and all that, but also try and learn some new things. So like if you want, if anybody goes to my performance page, they know like a lot of what I do with my clients, a lot of like compound movements, like 2-in-1. I love unilateral work, balance, hand-eye coordination, like whatever I can do to like spark the mind and spark the interest of someone to like make working out fun. Cause we're in this like perception. A lot of people nowadays are like, oh, I gotta go to the gym. I'm like, oh, like this, like I'm tired. I don't really want to go to the gym. But like I want people to like change that perspective. Like, no, like working out's fun. Like working out can be different. And you don't have to be set to just like one specific thing. Like you can do multiple different things and still meet your goals and still like be healthy at the end of the day.
Right. And that also relates to, you know, how we talk about having kids who are in elementary, middle school, high school trying different sports. It's the same concept. It's just a different, you're older, you know what you're good at, let's try some other things. And that could even be with like mindset stuff as well, and trying different nutrition protocols. Like I'm a huge intermittent fasting guy.
Okay.
Huge.
I don't know, man. I'm up too early. Like I need food in my system within the first 2 hours, or like I'm gonna pass out. But no, yeah. And I think another thing too that I've realized like over the years is like I had no recollection of what recovery even was, like in high school and like even like early on in college, because I was just like a workhorse. Like especially like when I was in college and I was home for the summers, I was working like 2 jobs, but I would also train twice a day. I was like burning myself out to a T. And I'm like, rest days, that's cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to do that. But like, especially this past year, getting my master's and like actually taking days off and like actually doing stuff like yoga and mobility and like learning about that stuff. Like, it's taken my training to a whole nother ball game that I could have never imagined. And that's what I also try to preach with like my clients, and even the people I'm in class with too. Like I know, especially like early in the mornings, like people who are getting up that early, like there's probably, they didn't get enough sleep the night before, and they're probably still in a catabolic state of like, they're super roused, and like, it's just a lot of stress you got to go through the day. So like, even some classes, like I'll just stop within the last 5 minutes. Like, all right, guys, we're going to do 4-point breath work. And I want you to just lie down on your back and just like let your mind go to la la land. And like that whole aspect of just like being able to control, like, you know, if your body's in that kind of state or whatnot, or just being able to be more mindful of yourself. It takes everything to a whole nother level. It takes everything to like that next step, which is like super important.
Yeah, something Dan had taught me. This was now over a year ago, and I'm positive that you learned this same philosophy at Merrimack, but built-in progression, built-in recovery, right? Like that second part, the built-in recovery, I'm the exact same way as you. Like when I was in high school, and that's my example with sports, like I was an animal and just wanted to go in and just crush. Like no matter what, was gonna PR every single time I was in the gym. Didn't matter. Like I'd break bones, to be honest. Like I said, fuck it. When I took the built-in recovery seriously and I was like, my body feels a little bit off, maybe I should just stop. It's insane how much you can progress at this stage in the training. And I just,
more progression happens that way. And I was like, I'm doing so much work. I'm like, why the hell is nothing like, and why am I still in the same spot? You know what I mean? And like, once I started like down and back and like, yeah, working. So like the biggest thing I learned, one of the biggest thing I learned from Coach Kamal, he said like one point was like, training is like, it's more than just the workload. It's about the balance between recovery and work. And once he said that, I was like, holy shit. Like, yeah, he's absolutely right. Because once you, again, start implementing that more and more, like you're going to see so much more happening in anything that you're doing in any program.
how do you,
Yeah.
sorry, Dan, just quickly. How do you get a client though who gets that itch? Like they start getting in love with it and they're like, oh, I want to train like endlessly. How do you dial them back?
Yeah, I mean, that's also a really good question because again, for me, like going back to the point of like training being more mental than physical for me. And I preach that to my clients too. And if like I'm never gonna be the type of person to like forcefully tell somebody, no, I don't want you going on like that extra 2-mile run at the end of the night if that makes you feel really good and that makes you sleep better at night. No, I'm never going to be that person because everybody's an adult and like they can make their own decisions. But I'm only going to, like, again, I go back to that point of also being real with people. And I'm just like trying to be as upfront as I can and be like, listen, we have certain goals in mind that we set at the beginning of this thing. And do you want those to happen? Right? Because you've been trying to listen to yourself for God knows how long. And then look where we're at. And then that's why you came to me. So if you really want something to happen, like these are some of the things that we kind of have to do. And like, I mean, I love that. I'm a weight room junkie. So like if someone wants to go lift, like regardless of the day, I'm like, hell yeah, like let's do it. But again, it's about making sure like individuals are doing the right things on the days that, like I have a couple clients now that I know love doing the cardio classes. They love it. Like it's just the high intensity or whatever it is, where it's the spike of the heart rate, whatever. So I try to make sure like I'm either supplementing them with like a yoga day or like I'm making sure that we're offsetting the days that we lift heavy with the days that they're able to do that active recovery because you can't pound weights every single day and expect to see results. And you can't pound cardio every single day and expect to see results as well. Again, it has to come back to like that little bit of in between, depending on what the goal is and what like, you know, what specificity is in the program.
Yeah, I was also going to touch upon too, you guys talked about being in high school and ripping it, crushing it. You also have to realize the amount of hormones pulsing through our body is insane.
Seriously.
And honestly,
especially when,
you can get away with it. When I
Yeah.
was in the personal sector, I knew that these kids were going through that phase, and I knew that if they wanted to do a little extra, I'd let them, just because I knew that their body was so fast in recovering, just where they were at their age. But like that's a totally different story at our age. So keeping that in mind as well is crazy too.
Those were the
James.
best days ever, though.
The best days ever, especially when like you're 17, you discover pre-workout for the first time and you're like, this is awesome. Like, I remember when, you know, my football buddies in high school were like, when like C4 first came out, we were like so fired up to go, just like we would wait till the bell rung and we'd sprint to the locker room just to start cranking our pre and going into the weight room. And like, those are the most fun memories in high school and like my most fun memories of training because yeah, you were able to be fine the next day and like not have a problem and like go to bed playing Call of Duty till like 1 a.m. and then like being fine for school the next day and like, yeah, I'm good, coach. Like, let's do this. But nowadays, no, bro. I'll be on the couch like propped up.
And everyone thought creatine was like steroids, and everyone was a creatine expert.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so like they don't take it right and within the loading phase and they just look like bloated freaking it's all downhill, you know.
It's the learning curve.
Yeah. I can still remember seeing that pink or like raspberry blue C4 in the locker room and powder of it all over the floor. Yeah, man. And creatine. Steroids.
You know what's
Anyways,
funny? You know what's funny going back to that though? Like for as much as, I mean, I'm serious how electric it was, but that environment, man, I try to replicate. It's just you can't beat it. And like it
Nothing.
sounds like you found something somewhat close with Drive. Like I really want that camaraderie and just the fucking energy, man. Like everyone is there to just get so much better. It's a great feeling, you know?
Yeah, and I think the cool part about Drive is like you just get to let loose. If that's like your style, is just like go balls to the wall and like just crank it up like me, then there's a place for you. But if you're the type of person who's like a more reserved coach and like more instructional and stuff like that, then like there's a place for you here too. And that's the best part. Again, like that's why our trainers are like so successful here, especially in terms of the clientele standpoint, is because like there's always someone that's looking for something different, right? And you know, maybe something that I won't be willing to offer to a client. That's why like I try to work with as many different people as I can to like get that like, oh, like I want to be able to like solve this puzzle. I want to be able to like work with this client regardless of like my background training and that kind of setting. But if I feel like someone's gonna have much better progression with someone else, and like, yeah, like I'll generally recommend it because like it's important. It's important to know like and realize like what someone wants and what someone needs.
Yeah, and switch gears a little bit, but speaking about being dynamic, I think Rob, when we were talking on the phone last week, correct me if I'm wrong, did you say you want to get into like the powerlifting coach for the Special Olympics?
Yeah, so it was really funny. So my mentor in college, Darren McFarland, he ran a group called Athletes in Action, which is a Christian-based organization. So I used to run the team Bible study from my junior and senior year. And his son, Chris McFarland, aka the Bear. So his name is Bear. That's all I know him by. He's actually a year older than me, and he has Down syndrome. So, and he was like my best bud in college, like all throughout senior year. He used to travel with us, you know, on the away games. He used to stay with us in the hotels overnight. His dad really trusted me with he just wanted to be a part of the guys. You could see that, like, he just loved being a part of like that team setting, like and just wanted to be one of the boys. And for my capstone project for my master's, I actually had the opportunity to train Bear through a strength and power program. Because one of the first things I noticed, like when we used to hang out, we should just go to the weight room, like the school gym, and just go lift weights. The dude is strong, like was freakishly strong from like the moment I met him with no training. And I was like, hold on a second. There's no training and he's that like has that much power output. I gotta do something about this. I was so intrigued. So I started diving into like a lot of the research and whatnot. And one of the biggest things that there wasn't a lot of it. Like there wasn't a lot of like research articles and like stuff like that about individuals who have Down syndrome, like how to go about training them for like strength and power. So I kind of had to like run a little case study and kind of do it on my own. But one of the biggest things that I found with individuals with Down syndrome, there's 3 key points that I found. One, hyperflexibility. So their joints like aren't as like stable. So his range of motion was like insane, like below parallel on squats, like just everything you can imagine. Also like balance and stability. So any unilateral movement was like super tough, like on the joints, wrists, ankles, and stuff like that. So once I started going into the program more, I shifted away from that strength and power. I was still implementing it, obviously, with our compound progressions, but I wanted to dive in more into like fixing like what the real like root of the real issues were. We're like working on his balance, a lot of single leg stuff, like getting him to do a step up or do a split lunge or anything along those lines. I was really just going to challenge his coordination and stuff like that. Like that's what I really shifted to. And then most of all, like he just loved it. He just loved he's like me. Like I love when someone hits a PR, it like jacks my day up. And like when he was hitting PRs and stuff on like bench, like I was getting juice. And you can tell like he's super reserved. So I'm saying like, hey, like you want to go up from here? He's like, no, I'm good. Like he'll know like when to stop. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think the other day I had him in last week. We were benching. He did like, I think our top set of 3 was like 195 pounds, which is like, and he hadn't benched and like, I hadn't seen him in like a couple months just because I've been so busy here and like in the summer. So like he hadn't trained a lot since then, but he was still putting up just weight. And I was like, that ultimately, and like both my younger siblings have learning disabilities as well. And in high school and whatnot, I was a part of a program that where instead of like going to take PE, you would go and work with certain individuals who have those kind of learning disabilities, and we would take them to the weight room. So I'm super comfortable like in that environment as well. And one of the biggest things I learned, especially with that, like you have to be real with them the same way, like how we're conversing. I converse with Bear the same way. There's no like let off on the pedal, you know what I mean? And like he wants that. He wants like that back and forth, and he responds well to that. So I know that like that's like another goal of mine aside from the other goals I have like when I'm older is like if I can get into like the Special Olympics and train like powerlifting or bring Bear there and have him crush it, like that'd be cool. That'd be something I would love to have on my resume one day.
That's very cool. And really cool. Like kudos to you for realizing the whole coordination, proprioception, all that stuff, because we know as strength coaches, before we're lifting weights, coordination is first. If you can't move right, you can't add stress to that movement, or else that's where injury comes in. So yeah, that was a great point too. Do you think, taking Bear on, was something you really enjoyed just because your other two siblings have the disabilities?
Yeah, I mean, I think like, especially like growing up with my brothers, we were always outside and just like active and whatnot. Like, and we were always just like doing something either with a ball or like me and my youngest brother, we would go to the weight room and whatnot. And we would like, I would just get it like a normal lift in, and just seeing like the impact like it kind of had. Yeah, I would definitely say that was like real driving force into like really wanting to get to know Bear more and like train, actually like dive into the training element of it rather than it just kind of be like a fun hobby for us to do.
Right.
I wanted him to like be also like shift that like that lifestyle to be like healthier on him as well. Like his dad was like always preaching to us about making sure like, he's not like eating junk food or like limiting him to soda and whatnot. He was a big like soda guy. So I was like, nah, man, one a day with me. That's it. And he'd be like, oh, really? And I'd be like, yeah, man, like, come on, you're not playing around with me here. Like, you don't think you can slide with me just because I'm one of your boys now. And he responded really, really well to that. And like, because he's listening to us, like the boys let him know like, hey, like, this is cool every once in a while. But like, if we're trying to like get strong and get healthy, then like, we got to do certain things like throughout the week and whatnot.
Very cool. Very cool.
Rob, I didn't know that. I didn't know that about your siblings. By all means, talk about what you're comfortable with, but kind of growing up with that, did it alter your perspective on kids with Down syndrome? Did it alter your perspective on like life as a whole? Like, were they treated the same?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Like, my youngest brother has Asperger's, and my second youngest brother had a TBI when he was like 10 or 11. So, if you looked at them straight on, you wouldn't know they had anything wrong. Right. Yeah. And that's how, it was a big adjustment for me growing up because obviously like when we're all young, like we didn't really recognize any of those issues. Those issues really didn't come about. So I was like in like my early teens and whatnot. And then like the issues became more prominent and whatnot. And yeah, like, I'll be honest, like kids were not the best to them. Like, I was bullied when I was younger and they were too. And like, and that was tough. And I never wanted them to never feel like they weren't accepted or that they weren't loved in any way, shape, or form, because they are. I love them more than anything on this planet, and I could only want the best for them. And any individuals that I ever come across where they never felt like they weren't good enough or that they didn't belong. And like, I hate that stereotype of like, just because someone is different doesn't mean that they can't do miraculous things. And I think that's the coolest part about my brothers is like, yeah, they may not be involved in like fitness the way that I am and stuff like that, but like they have their own things that they do now that like, make them extraordinary and make them like special and like their own person. And like, that's what ultimately I always wanted them, was just to kind of come into their own and realize like, you don't have to be like me. You don't have to be like anybody else. You got to be you. And that's it. And once you own up to that, the sky's the limit. And that it did definitely shape my perception about making sure like no matter who I came across or if the opportunity ever presented itself where I got a chance to work with someone along those lines, like I was able to do that, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's why you're a perfect fit at Drive, right? Like you understand that tribe, that camaraderie. And when someone's coming in, you want them to feel at home, feel a part of the group. And I think subconsciously, like, that kind of could potentially like be in your head in terms of when you're seeing someone new. And that's why I think you excel within that group setting, and why you're such an asset, not only to the organization, but the people who go there. They keep showing up because Rob's going a million miles a minute every morning, but I think that's good. Like, I think that's a driver that you may not think of every day, but that's definitely present in your actions. So I think it's very cool. And this is just from an outsider's perspective.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that. I think, like I said,
Yeah.
my biggest MO, like I know for a fact, like I'm not like the ordinary strength and conditioning coach. Like I'm not like the, what you like call like, I guess like the stereotypical type. Like I try my best to one, just be as real as I can, anybody that I come across. And then number two, like be as different as I can and kind of dive into as many cookies in any cookie jar that I can and like just gravitate to whatever I feel is going to be interesting or that I think is going to benefit me, or even if it's not going to benefit me, benefit someone else that I'm going to work with in the future. Because like that's the most important, is like having an understanding of like not just one specific area of the field, but like knowing multiple different areas of the field. So that way it all comes in the broad spectrum and that you're able to give a really broad and full understanding and have anybody you work with understand like what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah.
being dynamic. Yeah.
Rob, for me, I mean, I got enough just to know that you're good people. I think that the message that you're trying to preach to all your clients is just out of this world. And for what it's worth, I think what you're doing is pretty inspiring. So I'm set with the questions, Dan.
Yeah, I gotta ask,
Yeah.
what's the morning routine, man? I'm always interested
Oh man. All right. You want me to just run you through my morning real quick?
real quick.
All right. So I started my day off 4 a.m. I don't like to go on my phone first thing in the morning.
All
Like
right.
first hour, I try my best. Like I know it's tempting and like, I got like a million things on my phone. It's like, nope, don't do it. So, I mean, I live literally spitting distance from Drive. I live in an apartment building, like a minute drive. So I can kind of get myself up. So like, I usually have my clothes laid out the night before too. I'm like OCD like that. So like, I just like to just throw it on and go. Right. So like, once I get to the gym, I write out my whole day. That's something I picked up in my master's. And like, I broke out my day by either the half hour block or the hour. That way I know like what I'm doing and I'm not lost. And then once I do that, I'm either pounding an espresso shot or a double espresso, depending on how much sleep I had the night before. And then, my first two guys this morning, Billy DeLuca and Chad Goes, shout out to them. Billy owns a car dealership and Chad owns a mortgage firm. So just getting those guys juiced up right off the bat was awesome. And then I kind of just go about my day from there. Like my day was pretty all over the place today. I had like 3 or 4 clients this morning. I taught a class, and then I was able to kind of get a little bit of a break and write some programs. So anytime I usually have a break, I'm either eating or I'm writing programs or I'm like listening to like a video or a podcast, like just something to like always keep my brain kind of firing until like that 1 to 3 hits, and then it's go time. I'm on the gas, like it's time to lift. And then after that, I'll kind of, shower and then get my notes together from like my later clients in the day. And then, like I said, I finished on my last client right around 7. He's a doctor and a surgeon. So he was late today because he had a quick emergency at the hospital. So yeah, I work with anybody. Like I try, like my clients, if you looked at my client list and I just wrote it out, you'd be like, what the hell? And I mean that in the best way, because I love my clients. They're awesome. They mean everything to me because again, it's something different every day. and it's someone different every day. And like, it's kind of like, all right, what's today gonna hold? You know what I mean? So
I love
it's
that,
awesome.
man. Yeah. And I hope like once this gets uploaded, share to, your staff and the clients. I think it'd be cool for your clients to just hear who Rob is, not from the coaching, but just through conversation, which is
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like me and my coworkers are super close. And, like we go on the weekends with each other. We just went bowling all with each other last weekend. And like
nice.
just doing little things like that, just to like make sure we're all staying tight. Like I think that's super important in any business. You know what I mean? Anywhere you're gonna go, like I always wanted to make sure that, the camaraderie from who I'm working with is there. I do want to give a quick shout out though to two of my guys. Two of our trainers are actually competing.
Okay.
One of my guys, Trevor Woodman, who is actually getting his master's right now at Merrimack. If you want another guest, you gotta have that dude on. Like he squats 3 times his body weight. He's only like $180 right now, and he's
Oh,
squatting
wow.
almost 570. So he's competing at the Odyssey Barbell Classic in a week from now. So on the 30th. He's competing there. And if he places or his like numbers are really well, we're going to nationals in Vegas, which is in May. So we're like crossing our fingers for that because he's like ranked right now. He's pretty good. And then another shout out to my boy Steve, who is a bodybuilder. He's competing at the NPC New England bodybuilding show at the same day. So I got to go to Steve's first, and then I got to book my way over to Trevor's, and then we're all going out that night just to celebrate. Like Jay Cutler's gonna be there. My dude is dialed in. Like his physique compared to anybody else in the gym is just like it's insane. Like he has everything dialed down to a T. He's in this like sauna, just like all that. And I give huge props to those guys. And I give props to every single trainer here at Drive because everybody gets after it. And that's the best part. But like just specifically these two, I had to give them, I told them I would. I got to give these boys a quick shout out because it's important that I know I'm going to go there and support. We're going to get rowdy. It's going to be fun.
I thought I was done with the questions. What division is the bodybuilder going to compete in?
I think he's competing in, I want to say classic physique.
Okay.
I want to say, I don't know what I wish I knew the intel, but I know like all I know is the show up time, 11 a.m. on the 30th, and I'm gonna get rowdy because he was the more people you have there, the more people that are like going like rooting for him and whatnot, like that's super good. And like, yeah, man, he compared to anybody else in regards to like just like, I mean, obviously like bodybuilding like gets like a bad rap and whatnot, but like the amount of work that those guys put in is like unreal. The amount of work anybody puts in is unreal. But yeah, it's awesome.
I did a show. I know what it.
No way, dude. Really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I know what he's going through. So good luck, my friend. If you're listening. Yeah, it's all mental at this point. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, the one and done for me, man. Yeah, it's tough.
Gotta just break the ice, man. Get it out of the way.
So, Rob, where can people find you? I'll put all your info in the notes, but if you just want to say where people can find it.
So you guys can obviously find me, Drive Custom Fit in Salem, New Hampshire. Come in anytime, give you a free consultation, give you a tour, we'll go through everything. But you can find me on my Instagram. My personal Instagram is robhulse_10. And if you want to check out my performance page, it's just Hulse_performance. So yeah, go check that out. If you want to see some different perspective in terms of like some of the workouts that I do and whatnot. I try to post every week, try to even post twice a week on my performance page just to kind of give like the weekly highlights, and then I kind of do like my own thing. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Cool. Perfect. All right, Jake, you can take us out.
Yeah, Rob, pleasure, my friend. I already said everything you're doing is inspirational. It's just a fucking awesome message. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed. And until next time, peace.
Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you having me on. It meant a lot to me. And yeah, peace.